Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from the Halo Effect entitled March of the Unheard. This is the sophomore full-length studio album from this Swedish melodic death metal supergroup, big time emphasis on super, by the way, when I say supergroup, because as it turns out, every single person that is in this band at one point or another was a member of In Flames. And I don't know if y'all heard, but In Flames, kind of a big deal within the realms of Swedish death metal, melodic death metal, metal as a whole. The fact is, records like Jester Race and Horacle, Colony and Clayman are massively successful, influential, popular, and In Flames has since become one of the biggest names in mainstream metal today. Mind you, they've also changed a lot to the point of turning some people off. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of certain records, especially that stretch of records from the early to mid 2010s, like Siren Charms and Battles, and the less said about the Clayman 2020 EP, the motherfucking better. But that doesn't change the fact that In Flames is a massive fucking band. So when everybody in your band is from In Flames and they've gone out of their way to make like a classic Swedish melodeath record in the vein of what In Flames used to do in the late 90s and early 2000s, that's kind of a big deal. And I'm not the only one who thinks that, because fans and metalheads have gone out of their way to suggest that, the Halo Effect is basically In Flames 2.0. They're doing In Flames style metal better right now than In Flames are doing it. It's also gotten to a point where, despite the fact that several members of the Halo Effect have repeatedly reiterated that there is no bad blood, no rivalry between the Halo Effect and In Flames, many fans continue to allege, actually, there is. Now, personally, I've decided I'm just going to take the Halo Effect at their word. As I discussed in an interview with the Halo Effect and former In Flames bassist Peter Ewers here on the Metal Meltdown, this just happens to be a case where, a bunch of guys got together, they all happened to be at In Flames at different points in time, and they just happened to make the music that they're making, and it just happens to sound like classic In Flames. None of it was intentional, none of it's planned, there's no bad blood, there's no rivalry, there are no intentional efforts being made to one-up In Flames. They're just making the music they want to make, and more power to them because it's sounding pretty fucking good. Like, straight up. If you love classic In Flames, if you're in the mood for some old school Gothenburgian melodic death metal madness, then you are going to have a blast with the Halo Effect. Everything we know and love from the classic era of In Flames, from all of those classic albums, and for that matter, from 90s Swedish Gothenburg melodeath in general, remains intact on this album. There have been some interviews and press releases and promo materials that, have suggested that the band were trying to make something a little bit more progressive with this record, and you can kind of hear that in some parts. It certainly does have more synthesizers and keyboards and more cosmic, spacey textures and atmospheres in some parts. Maybe not anything like super proggy, no crazy time signatures and rhythms or nothing like that. But, sure, it's got a little bit of a prog-esque flourish to it. Sure. But despite that, the Halo Effect remains what it was really envisioned to be, an homage and a return to the glory days of Gothenburg Swedish death metal. Now, the downside to this approach is that March of the Unheard is inherently, and really even by design, a somewhat predictable and dare I even say run-of-the-mill record. I wouldn't say that it's super formulaic or cookie cutter or bland or boring, but I can understand why somebody else would make that argument, and overall, it just, I feel like it goes without saying, but, I'm going to say it regardless. If you don't like In Flames, and if you're not a huge fan of that classic Gothenburg melodeath sound, you're probably not going to like this either. This ain't going to do fucking nothing to change your mind anytime soon. I would say that this just really occupies a territory more similar to something like Municipal Waste for thrash metal, or Undeath for modern old school style death metal worship shit, If you love that sound, if you love that vibe, I don't see much of a reason why you wouldn't love this. They're not reinventing the wheel, they're just helping it move along so that the fucking thing can reach its destination, and we're having fun, and drinking beer, and listening to metal, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. You've got the opening number, Conspire to Deceive, kicking off the album in fairly fierce and fiery fashion with some soaring twin guitar leads and harmonies emboldened by some electronics and keyboards kind of riding underneath. I like its epic feel and sheen. I like that it's got some urgency to it. I like some of those classic Melodef rhythms and drawls and verses. I like how it transitions quite nicely into some bigger pyrotechnics. And I'm loving these like sneering, venomous, dry lead vocals, courtesy of Michael Stein, also of Dark Tranquillity fame. Just a really strong cut overall. It'll definitely have you bobbing your head and pounding your chest. It transitions quite nicely into the following cut, Detonate, as well. A slightly sharper, more fast-paced and brutal cut, while still retaining those more epic and melodic sensibilities and ideas and, again, everything you expect of classic In Flames. Then there's our Channel to the Darkness, which really ramps up the brutality in some sections while still having these really shiny, glossy, epic melodies and even making room for some more atmospheric and minimalistic sections with some very simple guitar playing. And then What We Become is a little bit more tense and dramatic, with some more complex, groovy riffage and some more nuanced keyboard, guitar, synthesizer interplay. And then there's The Burning Point, which is filled with exciting and explosive and even semi-varied guitar pyrotechnics and dynamics. Probably the most successful to it, really tapping into that really old school In Flames style. Like, if you had told me that this had come from like Colony or something like that, or Horacle, I might not have questioned it too hard. And while I feel like I may be in the minority when I say this, I'm gonna say it regardless, I really like seeing some more moody, gloomy, Dark Tranquillity-esque clean vocals pop up in cuts like Forever Astray and Between Directions. I do think the closing number, Coda, is a little bit anticlimactic. Like, I think having The Burning Point as the closing number would be better, and then the Coda kind of leads into it. But the song itself is solid, I suppose. I've got no beef with it. It's a decent little acoustics-driven piece with a few more cinematic strings attached. The production, too, makes everything sound and feel really big without being, like, overblown or overwhelming. I'm feeling a solid 4 out of 5 on this bad boy. A part of me in the beginning was like maybe 3.5 out of 5 because, let's be honest, it's not the most intuitive, it's not the most ambitious. But you know what? I'm here at the end, and I'm thinking to myself, I really did enjoy every track on this record, and these guys are putting their fucking heart and soul into it, and it's exactly what it was intended to be. Like, everything that this album wanted to be, it's succeeding at doing. Fuck it. I'm feeling it. 4 to 5, great record. Once again, if you love classic In Flames and classic Gothenburg Melodef, I see no reason whatsoever why you wouldn't also enjoy this. This could make a great gateway into like Swedish death metal and like Melodef as well. So for that reason, if you're completely unfamiliar with these genres and scenes, I would still recommend this record. I feel like I'm running out of stuff to say, so I think I'll just start wrapping it up here. Solid 4 out of 5. If you love In Flames, if you miss the true glory days of In Flames, boom, this is it. You're welcome. Congratulations. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.